Hey everyone, so I just wanted to put a quick disclaimer at the start of this review for Invincible Compendium 3. In this review, I talk about some subject matter that may be triggering for some people. Themes of sexual abuse and sexual assault occur, so I just wanted to put a quick disclaimer here to let anyone know. I'll throw up on screen a timestamp of when I talk about this stuff, so if anyone wants to skip it or anything like that, then you can do. Like I say, just wanted to make everyone aware. So, hope you enjoyed the rest of the video with that being said, and yeah, let's get into the review. Right, hello everyone, and welcome back to my Invincible review. Finished the series now, I absolutely loved all of it. I loved it so much. This is going to be a complete spoiler video for Invincible. Let's get into this. This collects issues 97 through 144 of Robert Kirkman's Invincible, obviously finishing in 2018. It sees Mark Grayson really grow up in this last compendium. I'm going to go through it. I'm going to talk all my way through it. I haven't scripted this video at all, so if I ramble, then I'm sorry. So this opens with Bulletproof dressing as Invincible whilst Mark's, not got his powers. I don't really like it when superheroes get depowered, like in Spider-Man 2, where he just loses his powers. In this, it's done well because like you have the Flaxians invading London and all things like that, and he can't fly over, he can't fly Eve over, he just feels useless and he's not got his powers. And I was just kind of like, I'm enjoying what Kirkman does with it because his writing, it's a great way to develop his character of Mark Grayson, but I don't know, I'm just not a big fan of when superheroes lose their powers. This opens issue 97, we get the backstory of Bulletproof, we get a really sort of like fucked up family arc of just, they think his brother is Bulletproof, even though his brother was kind of like a mad scientist that did experiments on him on Bulletproof. And so he finally tells his parents, and they're like, you've killed him, you've done this, you killed him, and he was our favourite son, and like, you're nothing, you deserve to go to jail, you deserve to die. And then all of a sudden his girlfriend whacks his mom over the head with a frying pan and kills her, and then his dad starts beating his girlfriend up, and then he kills his dad, and it's all just kind of like, Jesus Christ, that went from 0 to 100 real quick. And then the issue, you have this final page that's just awful. Zandale in the Invincible costume throws the car off a cliff, goes to the funeral, and then he's just sat in the kitchen with his girlfriend for one issue. He managed to tell all that story and have that impactful ending. Then we go on to Mark Grayson still not got his powers as at a comic convention, and this is something I loved throughout the series, how self-referential it is of comic culture and comic writers and stuff like that. So you have Mr. Shaft, who writes Science Dog and things like that Mark gets. He's just talking about how variant covers come out and how, as a collector, he feels he has to get them all and stuff like that, and it's just kind of like, it's a good little nod. Meanwhile, Nolan he's recovering from his fight with Alan, the alien, in the end of Compendium 2, after Alan wanted to take the Scourge virus to Earth. Then we get an issue of depowered Mark and Eve getting it on, and in the end, Mark has his powers, and that is the way he gets his powers back. If there was a way for Kirkman to have done it, that way is hilarious and it's great. And also, can anyone remember in the first issues how we'd spend an issue with Alan the alien being like, okay, well, Mark and Amber are getting it on, let's leave them and let's leave them to it. In this now, it's just like, you know what, nah, they're doing it. Obviously meets with Zandale next issue, and they talk about what's going to happen now. In the meantime, you have Dinosaurus, the person that blew up Las Vegas, who Invincible is working with. I guess Invincible knows it's for the greater good. Just right over the hot fuzz bit. It does help, Yes, he shouldn't have blown up Las Vegas and made it all glass, but from that you got the solar panels that then gave energy to like the rest of the world. So then while he's off, he's not got his powers, Dinosaurus has planted bombs in Los Angeles, and Invincible's rightly pissed. And then all of a sudden we just go back to Angstrom Levy after not seeing him for ages and ages after the Invincible War. It comes back. Yeah, Invincible's going through the sewers in LA with the Guardians of the Globe and everyone trying to get these bombs out that Dinosaurus has planted before LA, blows up. And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed how it does just blow up. All the bombs blow up in Antarctica, I think. It floods the world, pretty much. Like, it floods Paris, it floods New York. You have a page of, like, thousands of people drowning because Invincible freed Dinosaurus and he blew up Antarctica. And then you have the final page that's just, you're killing everyone, and it's as close in on Mark's face, and that is when Mark goes from being naive to being the man that he was kind of meant to be. He's gained some wisdom, and he's gained some kind of understanding of how the world actually works. You can't just take everything at face value, you can't free a mad scientist because he has the right ideas, but you know he goes about it the wrong way. Issue 99, you have the fight with Dinosaurus while everyone's trying to get saved. I really enjoyed these full page fights with Dinosaurus. Every single page is just full page, pretty minimal text bubbles. Ryan Ottley's artwork is just so great in this. I feel like you could have had it almost as a silent issue, I guess, with the fight with Dinosaurus. It kind of feels like that. I really enjoyed how the issue ends with him crushing Mark's head, and then how issue 100 opens with it just splatting everywhere. I love that, and I put on my Instagram at the time, I was like, just started reading issue 100, like, what? Because Mark's died, and they've broadcast it live, and like, yes, Mark's been thought to be dead before, but like, to have him killed and then have this double spread of all these characters' faces, and then he's in the black void, and you're like, is he actually dead? Is Invincible really dead? I really enjoyed that. I really liked it. And then it kind of felt like the rug was almost pulled out from under us. They'd set up Invincible to die. He had died. And then within that same issue, they were like, oh, he's alright, he's just a clone. I get why you can't kill Invincible. There's still 44 issues left. Like, yeah, his story's nowhere near ended. But to do that and then instantly just be like, oh, he's a clone. Oh, it's fine. After he's got his powers back straight away. I don't know, yeah, I felt like the rug was kind of pulled out of it. When he got his powers back, I was so worried that he would not be as strong as he was before, because obviously he's building up his strength, he's training, he's fighting conquest and things like that. To have his powers taken away and to come back and then be killed, and I was like, he's not going to be as strong as he is he? Like, he's going to really suffer. I was so worried about that, because I was like, I don't want the story to go down that route. But thankfully it didn't. I think that one of the things that makes me love Invincible so much, the book, the character, is how he talks to everyone. He talks to villains like Dinosaurus, Powerplex, and the god that comes from the other world, the woman. And he just talks to them, you know? He doesn't always have to punch him. And like Alan, he talks to Alan, and Alan, the alien, is like, oh, I was speaking with Omni-Man, and like, we didn't speak, we just fight, and it's only now that I know this isn't Urath, it's Earth. And that's all because Invincible actually talks to them. So I really enjoy that. I really do like it. And then when he kills Dinosaurus and just walks out covered in blood and Cecil comes, you know him and Cecil aren't on the best of terms at this point, and says to him, like, you could go to jail for all this. You set him free. You caused this. You're responsible for 800,000 people dying. So you could go to jail, or you can work for me. He works with Cecil again. After everything that's happened, after Cecil making the Reanimen from Invincible's dead body, Cecil betraying Invincible by working with Darkwing after Darkwing was a murderer in Midnight City, everything with D.A. Sinclair, and now he's back working with him. Obviously not by his own choice, kind of has to. And then Nolan and Debbie come back to Earth. It's so good, the end of this issue, because Eve and Mark go out onto the roof where, right at the start of the story, he talks about how he jumped off the roof thinking if he could fly, and it's just, to have that flashback within the comic, it shows you how far he's come. And like, for someone like me that was reading this and sort of binge reading it, obviously I've read it within the span of like a week and a half, 2 weeks, but this ran for 15 years, you know, people reading this for 15 years, and so to see just how far he's come and things like that, it kind of takes you back to it. And then the end of the issue, Eve says she's pregnant, and Mark's just like, oh, okay. Next issue we get Thrag talking to some Viltrumites saying that their behaviour is unacceptable because they've kind of become a bit like Nolan, becoming a little bit more human. And is it Anissa? Is that what she's called? She doesn't want to produce, she says, with anyone other than a Viltrumite, and so she's still kind of stuck in her old ways. The other two people whose names I cannot remember, who actually care for their mate, and who are becoming a little bit more human. Robot attacks Invincible, and Cecil has to come and be like, stop, everyone stop, like, don't attack him, he's okay. He's working with us. I know he did this, he set Dinosaurus free, but he's working with us. Invincible goes to the Pentagon to see Dinosaurus' body, and it says he marked it. He's marked his 6th vertebrae with his thumb, just to double check that Cecil wasn't pulling a conquest move, having him still be alive. Which, fuck you Cecil for doing. Fuck off. After Mark breaks both his arms and his leg and literally headbutts Conquest until he dies, for you to keep him alive, fuck off. I'm sorry, I'm sorry that I'm getting a bit irate about this 15-year-old comic, but I read that, and as soon as he was alive in the desert, I was just like, I know he's going to escape. But it did lead to a very good fight with him and Invincible again, but when Mark's literally just holding him by the neck, and he's like, I'm not going to let go, and he gets his entrails ripped out, and his like intestines, and he's just like, I'm not letting go. That was a very good moment. Let's get back on course. Cecil goes to visit Omni-Man and Debbie says, you can't come back to Earth, but you can live here on the moon. Thrag's watching, and then Thrag attacks Nolan, and you have this like silent fight where Debbie is getting sucked into the vacuum of space. Nolan's fighting Thrag, throws him, and he's trying to save Debbie from suffocating. Amidst his fighting with Thrag, throws her into the airlock, and she like finally can breathe. And the way that Kirkman does this, and Ryan Ottley does this in a silent issue, you can feel it so much. You can feel how Debbie can't breathe. Yeah, Nolan, Thrag, they have the sort of things that let them think to each other and telepathically communicate. Debbie doesn't have that. She's suffocating, she can't breathe. And then when she finally does breathe, she sees through the airlock that Nolan and Thrag are fighting. Honestly, when I read this, I laughed out loud, because there is the single page of Thrag in the exact same position Nolan was to Mark, just saying, let me tell you where we really come from. And it's just that, like, oh, for fuck's sake, again. What is it going to be this time? And so he tells him all about the Scourge virus again, and how Thaddeus was a traitor that cracked Argyle's skull. It meant that Thrag had to take over because he killed Argyle. And then for Thaddeus to team up with Omni-Man and Mark and destroy Viltrum. I really enjoyed the backstory because it gave you insight into why Thrag tried to attack Invincible whilst he was in his coma after being exposed to the Scourge virus. And Nolan to just punch him midway through his speech and was like, I don't care, you're attacking me, you're trying to kill me and my wife, I'm gonna kill you. You talk about killing my son, I don't care why you're doing this, I don't care about Argyle, I don't care about Thaddeus killing him, I don't care that I'm the rightful leader of Viltrum, I'm gonna stop you killing me. The fight they have is brutal. This fight with Thrag, where he pops his eye out and he's just beating the ever-loving shit out of him, and he's only stopped by the Viltrumites. General Craig stops him, catches his arm. They realise then, they're like, oh, so you found Argyle's heir and you didn't tell us, you were just keeping it for yourself because you want to be the regent. And so they all attack him, and that's really good. And then you see Nolan say, let him live, and they all bow to him to see how far he's come from the start of the story where he was attacking his own son, and now he's leading the Viltrumite Empire. And he is sort of a peaceful leader, I guess. He's not going to take over Earth. They're going to live harmoniously. He's not going to kill Thrag. They're going to exile him, which, yeah, that's a stupid call, but he's doing what he thinks is best. Another big thing at the end of another issue, Mark and Eve are going to get married. I like that. Good stuff. Angstrom Levy is living peacefully after thinking Invincible has died, and finds out he's not dead, and he's like, right, here we go again. Amanda and Rex, we get more insight into their backstory on the Flaxen planet for like 700 years. I really enjoyed the way that was kind of unfolded slowly. Let's try and keep this video a bit shorter. Eve is pregnant and can't use her powers. And then Angstrom Levy attacks Eve and she can't use her powers to defend herself, and I was worried that she was going to die or the baby was going to die. And then Mark comes back in, and again he gets trapped in the alternate dimension. Gets sent to where the other 8 Invincibles went, the evil 8 Invincibles. One of them that's left alive is a cannibal. Mark tries to talk to him, and he's beyond reason at this point. The only thing Mark can do is fly away. You get another of the evil Invincibles comes and helps him, and they manage to escape the cannibal Invincible together. The amount of shit Mark's gone through, honestly, at this point. So then he manages to fly back through another dimension, back through another portal. Not quite sure why Angstrom Levy opened another portal after trapping him there, but it's good that he did, because Mark can go back, and the other evil Invincible, who now wants revenge, goes back and gets Angstrom Levy. They actually talk it through. Angstrom Levy realises that he is a bad guy. What he's doing is terrible. It's not Invincible's fault, it's the way he is. Invincible was fighting the Mauler twins, yeah, but Angstrom Levy chose to stop their thing, did it to himself without realising. And so he surrenders. Invincible 2, I'm going to call him, Evil Invincible, takes him back to his dimension where he's going to kill him. But Mark's worried that he won't kill him. He wants to basically kill him himself, like he wants it to be done, so him and Eve can live peacefully. And so he asks Robot to find him, to find Angstrom Levy in this alternate dimension, because he's done it before, when he was trapped in the dimension and future Rex and the Guardians of the Glaive came and found him. He's done it before, so he knows he can do it. Anyway, then we kind of just we get more stuff about Amanda and Rex, we get stuff about Nolan and Debbie on the moon, we get Invincible working with Cecil. You get this moment at the end of the issue that is Nolan and Invincible sat on the moon talking to each other. Nolan says he's been scared every day of his life since Mark was born, because he's realised he's not a Viltrumite anymore. Mark's like, oh, great. I don't want to be scared every day of my life now. I'm going to have a daughter or a son or whatever. So yeah, Battle Beast and Space Racer's story. I just wish we'd seen a little bit more of it maybe, because they left after the the first fight with Thragon, where Thaddeus is killed. Wish we could have seen a bit more of that, and I think that's something we're going to see a bit more of in the show. Yeah, in the next issue, Debbie and Nolan find out about Eve being pregnant. You get this really funny moment of Invincible and Nolan having an arm wrestle that's so tense, and then Nolan wins and they're both drenched in sweat. Meanwhile, like, Battle Beast is on Thalasscria with Alan. Doc Seismic is becoming a big lava monster. Honestly, there's so much going on in this. There's no way this video is going to be less than like 40 minutes, I'm saying. Doc Seismic attacks and the Guardians of the Globe have to rush to stop him. So Invincible goes, Monster Girl goes, and then is it Anissa, I think? Or it's one of the Viltrumites. Just flies through the Magnemite that Doc Seismic is kind of, you know, controlling, and just kills it. She's just like, oh, I'm not going to get involved, but I don't want the world to be destroyed, so. And then she kisses Invincible. It's no good. It's no good. It really shows she's a character you can't really get along with. Finally, issue ends with Robot telling Invincible that a trans-dimensional portal is ready. If he wants to, he can go kill Angstrom Levy. They go. Eve rightfully has this big blow-out argument. Like, I'm completely on Eve's side in this, and says, don't go because what about the baby? You've been trapped in other dimensions before. You've been gone for ages when you were on Thraxa. Obviously had this fight with Conquest where he got his entrails ripped out and was in a coma for months. Don't do it. Just, he's gone. He's gone. Let him be gone. You don't need to go and kill him. But he has to do it for his own self-righteousness. He has to get the satisfaction of knowing for sure that Angstrom Levy's dead. And I can understand where he's coming from, you know, with Conquest. Everything that happened with that. That's why he had to make sure Dinosaurus was dead. Robot comes back, opens the portal, they go. Conquest comes and says, please assist me. And I thought we were going to get round 3. And rather than fighting again, goes along with it, goes with it. The Mark Grayson of that dimension has Angstrom Levy chained up, and they're trying to work out his trans-dimensional powers. The Invincible we know was kind of right. You don't want evil Invincible to have those powers, because what happens if he attacks Earth again? Robot deafens both the Invincibles, kills all the Doctors, shoots a grenade down evil Invincible's throat, which is brutal, the most brutal death. Blows his eyes out, blows everything out, and then cuts Angstrom Levy's head off. I was like, fuck, Robot isn't going to be the big bad, isn't he? And he just leaves Invincible in this dimension. And again, he's trapped in another dimension. Everything Eve said has come true. He's trapped in another dimension with no hope of getting back. Angstrom Levy is dead. Robot's gone. How's he going to open another portal? He's royally fucked. And then you have this page that's just him on the floor saying, holy fuck. But you did this to yourself, you know that, right? So 109. We get the quickest haircut I've ever seen a superhero have. He pulls his own hair out and he changes clothes with Evil Invincible, which I really liked. Tells them that he's the right Invincible, and goes and finds Robot, who is, in this reality, still in a test tube, and gets him to, like, a trans-dimensional portal, because I guess Robot can do it. He's smart enough to do it, it just takes him a long time. And obviously everyone in this dimension hates Invincible, because he went over to the Viltrumite side. He's taken over and like, done everything he can to wipe out everyone. He says he's trapped in there with Robot making a body, but he's not, he's just trying to escape. And so the Viltrumites think it's their Invincible still, and they're trying to rescue him, but they're not going to rescue him. They're going to just kill him, and kill Robot, and everything, and it's just so tense. And if you've not read it, you're like, Cade, what are you talking about? And so he clones himself with a clone of Invincible, again. Which is really cool, because then Robot gets the powers of Invincible, and he can do things for good, and is in Invincible's body. I guess it's the monster, it must be the Monster Girl of this world, is a giant kaiju looking lizard thing that basically destroys the Teen Team's base, and Invincible, our Invincible, escapes just in time into his own dimension, where he goes back to see Eve, who is now very, very pregnant, and tells her that Robot trapped him in this alternate dimension, and she doesn't believe him, and she's like, you've been gone 6 months, we had the argument, told you not to go, you went, you've been gone 6 months. All this stuff I've gone through and you weren't here, and I told you it would happen. She says we're through, and he is shocked, and he's kind of lost a lot, and flies up into the sky, and then this happens, and I just want to say a trigger warning to do with sexual abuse and sexual assault, because the character Anissa chases Mark down and basically rapes him. That is just awful to kind of watch and to read. I was reading it and I was like, surely not, and they like go into the farm, he's just left sat there, and I felt so awful reading this. He's lost Eve. He's now maybe not going to have a relationship with his daughter, and then for this to happen, it's just awful. This is the first real time you've ever seen, well, I've ever seen a superhero go through this, or especially a male superhero. Like, reading this, you would never think that's going to happen. And so for him to show that, it shows that he's not invulnerable. He's not this person that is a godlike figure that can never ever be hurt, because he goes through this and it affects him so much. It affects us as a reader. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't really know what to say about it. You don't expect it when you go read a superhero book. Invincible goes and sees Cecil again, and Robot comes in and disrupts Mark's ears, and we get Cecil's death. Robot slices Cecil's neck open and just curb stomps him American History X style. And it's worse because Invincible punches and lets all of his anger out from everything with Eve, from everything with Anissa, from the whole situation, and now Cecil dying. Unloads, and it's an empty shell. It's not even Robot. And so when he says, "Meet me at your house," Invincible flies straight there, and Robot is in a massive mech style thing that Invincible can't punch because it will hurt him as well. When you think of it, Invincible could take Robot any day of the week, but in this suit, and Eve can't use her powers. She's 6 months or 7, or I don't even know how many months pregnant she is, but she can't use her powers to help. And so you get this brutal fight. He says, "I fashioned this armour from volcanic tempered titanium alloy, which I believe now is the strongest metal on Earth." If Superman was to fight Iron Man, who'd win? Iron Man, probably, because he'd find a way of outsmarting him. Invincible fights him, and Eve's leg gets ripped off. Her leg gets ripped off, and seeing that, a pregnant woman's leg getting ripped off, is awful. Literally, these past few issues have been brutal. Some of the worst stuff to ever happen to Mark in his life. But then you get a really cool thing. She just crushes Robot's head. She uses her powers. I mean, she has to at that point. She crushes his head, and he's not in it. He blows up the house. They fly straight up to the moon, where Robot is in his moon base that orbits the Earth, that keeps the tide slow. So Invincible needs to get to Nolan and the Viltrumite Empire, because they have all the medicine to help. Eve makes a force field around herself, and this whole time I was like, please don't let anything happen to the baby, because the way things are going, I can see it happening. Final page of the issue, Mark is completely destroyed. All he can say to his dad is help. This is heavy stuff, like, Jesus. And then Robot just goes mental and kills Black Samson, kills the elephant character. All this while, Amanda is like, "Oh, Rex, what do you want to talk about?" And he's like, "Oh, good to see you. I'm sorry I've been working so much." And he's like a psychopath that's killing everyone. He's like killing Kid Thor. He's killing all these people that I've seen throughout other issues. The Martian, the character, he's just like, "I thought we were friends," and he's like, "We were. It's nothing personal." But he still kills them all, kills all the Invincible Reanimen, and he kills Donald and blows up the Pentagon, so Donald's just a flying head at this point. And then Monster Girl protects Rex from being shot by Best Tiger, who I don't really know anything about who he is. I hope he's in the Guardians of the Globe stories, because I'd like to read those. And then yeah, she actually finds out that he tried to hunt down and kill the Zaxals, which are from the planet Flaxen. So when I said the Flaxians attacked, I meant the Zaxals. If that makes sense to anyone? And so he gets into space to kill her. And at this point, Robot he's the big bad of this. Like, Thrag is terrible, but now he's not been defeated, but he's like, Nolan is the rightful heir. Nolan has the Viltrumites on his side. We need kind of another opposing force. Robot. Like, I'm so excited to see if they do this in the show. I can't wait for it, because if they do, I can see the show going for like 6 or 7 seasons with all this. I feel like season 2 is going to have the big conquest fight, which I would love. So Robot's taking over the Earth. Anissa saves Monster Girl from space, from dying, and Mark is on the moon base whilst Eve is having surgery, and he gets his daughter and he's like, she's alive, she's healthy, and he's like, "I'm so sorry," but he's going to be like frightened every day of his life. He knows he is now. And so Eve and him, they get back together luckily, and things are kind of starting to mend themselves with this new life that's brought into the world. Anissa talks to Nolan, and you see Invincible's hand shake at first. He sees his attacker for the first time since the incident, and he just shakes, and then it makes a clenched fist, and it's just like, I don't know if I want him to attack her or not, because like everything she did to him, yeah, but for him to just do it, and then obviously they'd attack him, and maybe Nolan's empire would like fall and Thrag could take over and all this. God, there's so much at play for a superhero story. Robot comes to the moon, where Viltrumite bases and has a proposition for them to work together. They agree to do it. Everything that's happened, Eve is in labour, well, not in labour, she's in the maternity ward, and Invincible's like, I've got to go and stop Robot. And she's like, yes you do. And you get this badass moment. Before Mark ending the issue completely broken, now all he wants to do is go and fight Robot and defeat him. He's going to do it. Eve can use her powers again now. She makes him a suit and he's going to go and beat the ever-loving shit out of Robot. He obviously flies to where Robot is meeting the Viltrumites and destroys the drone, talking to his dad, and he's like, how can you not want to kill him after all this he's done? How can you not want to defeat him? Nolan says, opposing him would put too many lives, human and Viltrumite, at risk. It's not worth it. It's this whole Dinosaurus argument again. He's doing things for the better, but he's going about it the wrong way. And so Mark is like, no, it's not right. I need to stop him. And Eve's like, do it. Oh, it's such a good moment for those two. Because now they're back together and yeah, go and stop him. The moment where the last of the Guardians of the Globe are in a meeting and talking about how they can oppose Robot when loads of his drones break in. Zandale, who we saw from the beginning of this, who is dressed as Invincible, is just saying, don't oppose them, it'll go better this way. So he ratted them out. That character, like, I did not like him from the start. When he's wearing Invincible's suit and he's not got his powers, and it's just like, you're not invincible. And then he like try it on at one minute with Eve. He like tries to kiss her or something. I've never liked him. And so yeah, Robot has his meeting with Mark where Mark tries to just kill him, and Robot's got hundreds of drones. And so he says to Mark that in the sort of time that he's been doing what he's doing, he's made the world a better place already. And Mark sees this and has to let him carry on. He can't stop him, because stopping him would send the world into like peril and everything with Dinosaurus. Like, if it wasn't for Robot, the world would have still been flooded. And so he just has to go back to Eve and tell him he won. Robot won. Then we have issues of Battle Beast going to Thraxa, where it turns out Thrag is. They say they've tracked Thrag to Thraxa, and Battle Beast goes to kill him, goes to find him after Alan tells him to. I was just like, he's making an army, isn't he? He's making another army. He's gonna have all these children, and he's gonna make another army. Like we know with Oliver, who grows up very quickly. When Battle Beast comes down to fight Thrag, the ship releases Ragnar, which are the kind of like dinosaur-esque characters that are known to be able to kill Viltrumites. Battle Beast sides with Thrag to kill the Ragnar because he says, our fight needs to be even. I can't let you die to Ragnar and then kill what's left. I don't know if I liked it or not. And then Thrag gets his stomach ripped open. And so what does Battle Beast do? Cuts his own stomach open like an idiot and then has a battle with him. I can see this battle definitely happening in the show because it's brutal and it goes for so long, and I really enjoyed it. And then the issue ends with you seeing all of his children is having... Yeah, next issue starts with William explaining everything that's going on. You get a moment of Nolan and Debbie outside their destroyed home after Robot blew it up, and one of the neighbours comes over and she's like, oh, Nolan! Like, obviously the whole world thinks he's dead. And they just fly straight up into the air. She doesn't know he's Omni-Man, and then she's just there like, ghosts! The battle between Thrag and Battle Beast continues, and Invincible's having dinner with Eve's parents, he's living there, and then you get, after that, the funerals of everyone that Robot killed. Cecil's funeral, nobody shows up except Invincible and Eve, and Invincible's kind of just like, I just can't let this go on, like I can't let him do this, because what he's doing is not good and it's not right. He's flying away from the funeral, from the casket of Cecil, and Immortal catches up with him and says, we need to take him down. And Invincible is like, well, everyone's happy. They don't know Rex has taken over, but if they did, they'd give him a medal. He's not making the world a worse place, he's saving it in a way. And so Immortal is saying to him, he's like, I've lived for thousands of years and I've seen people that think they're making the world a better place, ultimately try and destroy it or take over. He's basically a tyrant. Mark goes back to Eve and his daughter and he just says, we're leaving Earth. Because at this moment, like, what else can he do? He can't fight Robot, he can't live in a world dominated by Robot. They leave on the ship and they discuss names for their daughter and they call her Terra. And they get to Talascria and the first thing she does is punches Alan in the eye, which is quite funny. Then we meet Oliver again. I'm trying to speed this up a bit because I've been talking for ages. They feed him this food that's obviously alien food. And we just get these panels of the next morning of Invincible, like, on the toilet, and it's good stuff, I enjoyed it. And Eve comes in and she's like, oh my god, and Mark's like, don't look at me. And it just really made me laugh, that. So we go from that kind of funny moment to a really heartfelt poignant moment where Mark tells Eve about what happened with Anissa, and Eve and Invincible actually finally managed to talk about what happened. And then right as they are, Alan comes in. He's like, I'm sorry to have to say this to you, but we found Thrag and like Battle Beast fighting him, and it might be our only chance to kill him because he's weakened. Battle Beast has weakened him. And then we go to the finale of their fight, and it is brutal. Thrag has won, ripping out the insides of Battle Beast, and then passes out himself and gets taken away by the Thraxans, the Fly People. After all this, after the battle with Battle Beast, after Invincible and Oliver taking a trip to where Space Racer was lost and saving him with the like Star Trek-esque crew, he goes home and sees his daughter, and like we actually see her properly for the first time, and then you just get these 2 pages of him spending time with his daughter, and it's really cute. It's nice to see Mark as a dad, like actually to see him like this. We've seen him grow up from a teenager to be a dad, and it's nice to see. And then yeah, the issue ends with Thrag wearing Battle Beast as a cape. Seeing that, I was like, damn. Immortal and Kate, back at home, Duplicate, hatch a plan to free all the imprisoned Guardians of the Globe by getting Immortal captured and putting a bomb inside him that makes him blow up and freeze them all. And then you have this really cool battle where they're all trying to escape, and obviously Robot's got everyone on his side. They manage to escape because D.A. Sinclair turns the white room on. He turns on the frequency that no one can see because of what's in the water. So they just managed to escape. They managed to escape that way. And Zandale, Bulletproof, who's still wearing Invincible's suit, half his face is blown up, and he's in a proper Two-Face-esque get-up now. Kind of deserved, I guess. And then yeah, all the Guardians of the Globe are kind of in hiding, living. Robot just comes to see them, and he's like, I could kill you all. I know where you are. Like, you're not hidden from me. And then he explains himself, and some of them take his side. Some of them don't, like Amanda. Yeah, obviously she's not going to take his side. I'm going to try and sum up each issue fairly quickly now because the review will have been going for a long time. So we just get more of life for Mark and Eve on the planet. Eve's kind of a fish out of water, like doesn't like being there. We see that Space Racer was doing recon on Thrag, and Thrag has seen him and is chasing after him. And so Invincible has to prep for his mission to go and kill Thrag, try and finally end it. But in the meantime, he just says to Eve, like, you need to go. Just spend the day. Get to know the place. You've been with the baby all the time. Let me take care for the day, and you go and have a nice time. And so then you get these 2 pages that are like each of their days, and it's really nice to see how Eve comes to terms with the planet and has a nice day, and Mark is able to manage Terra as a father and look after her. Mark and Oliver leave for the planet that Thrag is supposedly on, and he's not there. And Mark goes down this cave. This bit of the story I did not like at all. He comes into contact with some weird alien thing, and it sends him back in time, right to the very start of the story, where his mom is shouting at him to get off the toilet and go to school. His powers haven't even kicked in yet, and so he has to sort of relive this time, and him and Eve obviously don't know each other. Robot's a villain who isn't a villain yet, and he's just trapped in this place. I didn't hate it, but I was reading this and I was so thrown out by this because you're put into this deep story that Kirkman has created over all these like hundreds of issues about leading up to Thrag, fighting alongside Oliver, everything with Robot, and then just be taken out of it and thrown back in time. I don't know. I normally don't really like it when that kind of happens in stories and stuff. I remember the Prince of Persia film, how that ends, and he just goes like back in time and it ends right at the start of the film. And so I was worried that everything he'd done would kind of have been for nothing. But he's able to stop threats before they happen. He stops the Zaxal Empire taking over from Flaxen. The one part that I really liked was when he goes to Omni-Man and he talks to him and says, I know you're going to take over the world, please don't. And his dad beats the shit out of him yet again, but Mark manages to lead his dad to the Guardians of the Globe, who Omni-Man hasn't killed yet. And so together, they managed to take him down. It's good because everything that happened before, if Mark had have only known, he could have set so much more things up. So like Cecil is able to come in with the Reanimen because he told Cecil about D.A. Sinclair. One thing I really liked about this actually was how it's drawn again by Cory Walker, about how they got Cory Walker back to do the artwork for these couple issues because Cory Walker was doing the art for the issues at the start of the story. So I really like that. And then after weeks of being back in time, back on Earth, Mark is visited by the same sort of alien vine thing again, and it says to him like, do you want to stay here? Because You could do so much good. You could stop Dinosaurus from destroying Vegas, you could stop Ange from Levy from bringing all the Invincibles in, you could stop Conquest, you could stop Thrag before he's even a threat to you, you could stop all this. Or do you want to go back? He says, he's like, I can't stay here because if I stay here, I can't see my daughter and she's not been born. I can't trade all those lives for the life of my daughter. I side with Mark on this. The alien, I'm just going to call it the alien thing because it's never named. It just says, you've doomed this world, and takes him back. But I think Mark did the right thing. As a father, he's got people to protect. So we go back, and yeah, this was something I did not like again. Mark's been gone 5 years. He's been gone for 5 years. Missed his daughter growing up. I hated this. This was the part of the story that I was like, no, you haven't done this. Please, you haven't done this. I was expecting a time jump earlier in the story, big 5-year time jump, and it's just, I don't know what I can say. Mark's broken, once again broken. Missed his daughter growing up. He said he was going to be there and he got stuck in another dimension in another time. All the while, Thrag's army is building over this 5 years. He's got now soldiers. Mark and Eve go and live on this other planet to try and escape. At this point, like after he lost his powers and I was worried he wouldn't be as powerful, when he goes through this trauma and everything that happens, you know, he's missed his daughter growing up, he's been plucked out and just like thrown 5 years ahead. He's definitely weaker emotionally and mentally. He's just crying, and rightfully so, because he's missed everything. We go back to Earth and we see what Robot's done, about how Omni-Man and Robot are, I guess, friends now. We also get the death of Alan the alien because the coalition of planets blows up. Well, it's blown up by one of the chairmen that think fighting with Thrag was a bad idea. Although Alan survives because he's been killed before. His arm was like chopped off by Viltrumites and maybe his head was as well, I can't remember. And so yeah, he's regrowing his limbs and everything like that, whilst Thrag's soldiers are like conquering worlds and taking over. Oliver goes back and sees his dad. Nolan kind of figures out what happened with Anissa and Mark and what she did to him and tells her to leave. And so she goes home and she has a son called Marky who is, wouldn't you know it, 5. And so yeah, Mark has another child. From then, Alan's just learning how to walk again. Nothing really happens too much, and then the Viltrumite soldiers come to the planet that Mark and Eve are staying on and try to kill them and try to kill Terra, their daughter. And so Mark is like thrown back into this world of fighting that he wanted to leave, and he's just crying because he has to go through all this. You get this moment, this like horrible moment where it's Mark trying to outrun one of the Viltrumite soldiers with his daughter in his arms, and she's like, I can't breathe because he's flying too quick. She can't get any air. And he's trying to fight this guy while saving his daughter, and then literally he's like, right, gotta fly again, deep breath. It's really good because it's so hard hitting and it's so much. I just wanted Mark to just come back, kill these Viltrumite soldiers, and then just go and kill Thrag because he's been through so much and he's just, he doesn't deserve it. All he's ever tried to do is good, and he does not deserve to have all this. Then we see that Mark's daughter, Terra, has powers because she gets dropped and can fly, and so her powers kick in at 5, which is mental considering that Mark's powers kicked in at 17. I thought Thrag was going to kill Terra for a moment. I was really worried that she was going to die, but Oliver comes in and saves her, and Mark is fighting with the Viltrumite twins. So we get this fight, and Thrag kills Oliver. Big moment. I was thinking Oliver was going to die much earlier in the story when he was first introduced. I don't know, I didn't know how to feel about it because I was like, I wasn't expecting Invincible to have a brother, and I really enjoyed everything they did with his character. And then we get this absolutely badass moment. I love it. I loved it. Mark goes full Omni-Man in issue 12 or whatever it is, and has Thrag's son by the neck. It's like, look, you let my daughter go, I'm gonna kill your son. Thrag's pretty much like, you won't kill him, you're a hero. And Mark just crushes his neck and he's like, being a hero is bullshit. Because it is for Mark. He's been thrown 5 years ahead of time. He's been trapped in alternate dimensions. It just crushes his neck. Is it wrong for me to say it's satisfying? God, then we get a fight between Thrag and his daughter, Eve, and Mark, who's not as strong as he was. Mark gets ripped in half by Thrag. Gets properly ripped in half by Thrag, and Eve's face gets like caved in by the Viltrumite daughter. They just leave him there to die in front of Terra, his daughter, and luckily Eve, her powers kick in and she is reborn, and so is Mark. Again, it's good. Like, I'm so happy it happened because obviously it's happened before when they fought Conquest. Eve died and then came back. How do I say this? It's very much the same as it was in issue 100 with the Invincible clone. It was, he's died, oh no, he's back. I don't know. Yeah, they're unable to save Oliver, and then Oliver has his hero's funeral and Alan attends it, and Invincible fights Alan because he sees it as the same as with Robot. Robot killed all these people and attended their funerals, and he did nothing. Alan, he didn't kill Oliver, but I mean, he asked Oliver to be his undercover agent to stop Thrag, and it led to his death. But then we get this, it's not even a fight, it's just like this conversation between Eve and Mark, where she hits him and she's like, you're reckless, you're always doing stuff, you're always getting trapped in other dimensions because you don't think things through, you just do things. He really takes a moment then to just kind of be like, yeah, I need to just be better, I need to not be getting trapped in other dimensions and timelines and stuff like this. I said it earlier about how that's the time that Mark becomes the man he wants to be. I think this, if he wasn't before, he is now. 100%, because he's been through this horrible stuff. He's literally had everything horrible happen to him. He nearly lost his wife and his daughter and his brother all on the same day. So him and Eve get married, which is really nice. It's nice to see them finally get married. At this point now, Mark and Eve are just going to go and fight Thrag and the Viltrumites because it's time to end this. Like, it's time to end it all. Mark asks his dad Nolan to come with him, and he just says no, he can't. He has to command his people, but he'll ask if the Viltrumites will help. Invincible and Eve put on their old costumes. Eve makes them on the atomic level, and their daughter just laughs at them because they're like, what are you wearing? She's never seen them in this. She's only seen them in Telescria clothes, and so they're wearing their old costumes, and she's like, what are you doing? But then the end of the issue, where they're going off to fight Thrag. This is 135, so we have 9 issues left after this. I was reading it, and I was like, please don't let anything bad happen, because you don't know if it will. You don't know if the story will just end with Mark dying or sacrificing himself or something. It reminded me so much of in Endgame, where they go to kill Thanos, and they're just like, let's go get this son of a bitch. Yeah, they go and attack the Viltrumites, and there's hundreds of them. This massive war ensues, and we just get hundreds of Viltrumites versus our heroes. Everything the characters have been through, everything Eve's been through, Nolan, Mark, they've got nothing left to lose. They're fighting for everything. If they don't win this, it's over. So they're giving it their all. Nolan is ploughing through them. Eve's killing loads. Mark's killing loads. There's this really good moment where Eve is being attacked by all these Viltrumites, and Mark is like, Eve, hang on. He's just tearing through people, and that's when I knew, like, Mark is back. Like, that's the Mark that we had before he lost his powers, before he was sent 5 years into the future and broken physically, mentally, emotionally. Obviously they have to retreat because there's just hundreds of them, but the plan was to lead them to Earth. So they go and find all the Viltrumites living on Earth, and obviously with Robot we have, I guess, a bit more of an army. So yeah, they lead them to Earth. This big fight ensues. Thrag is leading his army, and he comes out with Ragnar's. They're fighting in space. There's a bit in this where Mark says to Eve, stay in the ship, because if anything happens to you in space, if you're knocked out, you die. We don't have to breathe oxygen, we can hold our breath for ages. You have to. But he's seen her die twice, and both times she's come back. So, like, I don't know why he says that. Yeah, we get the fight with Nolan and Mark and Thrag, and it's just so great. It's so good. Yeah, it's really good. They just fight him, and Thrag ends up killing, well, not killing, but killing Nolan right in front of Mark. I mean, that's really the last thing Mark's got left to lose, his dad. He goes and fights Thrag himself, and Robot's ship comes up, and Nyssa saves Eve from a Ragnar. Amongst all this, Thrag's daughter, who's their twin, just sees it, and she's like, what is all this? Like, I don't agree with the Viltrumite ways. Let's just stop. So they do. They stop and they surrender. We get one of the most badass comic book fights, second to Conquest, where Mark takes Thrag down to the surface of the sun in issue 140. So they're talking through their like earpieces, that they can hear each other's thoughts, and they're fighting, and they're both getting burned up to death. Obviously with it getting burned, can't talk to each other anymore. So we just have Mark's inner monologue talking about everything, and this was just him reflecting on everything whilst fighting Thrag. He manages to kill Thrag. He rips his throat out with his teeth, and he says that everything with his dad and the Viltrumites at the moment, it proves that Viltrumites are a compassionate people. There's always room to grow. You can be a force for good and spread peace through the galaxy. You can be loved. And then he bites his throat out and rips it out, and he just like, we can be happy. And so he's killed Thrag. He can finally be happy now. Just like when he killed Angstrom Levy. Oh, when he went to see Angstrom Levy was dead, he had to do that to make sure he could be happy. Can he now be happy as parents with Eve to Terra or not? Mark is recovering from literally getting burnt alive and getting all his skin grafted back on, and goes and sees his dad who got impaled. And we find out that it's Mark's time to leave the Viltrumites. Nolan's heart was damaged, which means he's going to die, because we've seen his eyes popped out, Mark's had his intestines ripped out, we've seen all kinds of stuff happen to them, but they've always survived because their heart is like the thing that keeps them alive and that keeps them regenerating and healing. But his heart was damaged, and so he dies in Mark's arms. And it's really a really satisfying end to that character. I thought we had a great arc with him. We had the father figure at first, becomes the villain who turns to Mark and kills him. Then he's this sort of anti-hero that is like done all this horrible stuff, but he's still Mark's dad, and there's still room for him to possibly be good. Then he is a good guy, leading the attack against Thrag and everything, and with Alan and everything like that. And we get a really cool thing in issue 142, where Robot is on board the ship, and Invincible, Mark, goes fight him, and he just jets off the ship and literally leaves his armour behind, and it blows up in Mark's face to stop him, and he's just wearing a helmet and a suit, and he gets into a bigger mech and then flies to Earth, and he's rounded up all of the Viltrumite children because he's going to turn the Viltrumite army against Mark. He says, if you kill Mark, I'll free your children, I'll let them go. Because he knows that the Viltrumite army can take over Earth, they could kill him and his army. So Mark gets the help of the Guardians of the Globe and the Viltrumites and says, we all need to work together to just destroy him, because then we can save your children. So they do, they work together. You get a really good moment when Monster Girl is fighting Robot, and he reveals himself to her by saying, I'm afraid you're right, like, I'm sorry. And she just punches him and says, he's in this one, we've got him. So Mark grabs that drone and just flies it up into space and says, I can fly faster than your drones, what's the range on them, how long do you think it will take me to get you beyond it? So he does, he manages to get him out of range of controlling all the other drones, and they just talk in space, and it's kind of like the bit in Age of Ultron where it's Ultron and Vision talking in the woods. It's just them in space. Robot is talking about how he feels empty, and Invincible says, you're not evil, you just want control. You want to be in charge, that's what this is. Don't try and turn it into some sad story about how different you are, how that makes you special, how we need you. We don't. We need to be free of you. So Robot says to him, he's like, I've done so much good since I took over. You're racking your brain trying to think of a way to keep one and lose the other. You know, he wants to keep Robot's force for good. But he doesn't want to keep Robot alive to take over the world because of everything he's done. Everyone he's killed. So he's like, I figured it out. And he just punches a hole through Robot. And it's very good. Enjoying it. I don't know, I just have some, I guess, questions about things. If the heart of the Viltrumites is what, you know, can kill them, why didn't Conquest pry for Mark's heart when he pulled out his intestines? Because, like, he puts his hand in his stomach and pulls them out. I don't know, maybe he was trying for the heart but just got the wrong thing. And then Mark punches a hole through Robot's armour that was supposed to be the strongest metal. I don't know, maybe it's because they're in space or something, who knows. But at the end of the issue, Mark is introduced to Marky, who is his biological son with Anissa. And chapter 143, Mark becomes the leader of the Viltrumites. His story is coming to an end. They leave Marky on Earth with his, I guess, stepdad. I mean, it is his dad, it's just not his biological dad. But Marky develops powers and destroys the city without meaning to, because he's like, he doesn't know what's happening to him. He doesn't know he's half an alien. Invincible has to go and get him, kind of save him from hurting anyone. All the while, I completely forgot to say, Robot's a brain in a jar with Immortal looking over it. Because obviously, brain in a jar, you can keep it for as long as need. Immortal can live forever. Yeah, I quite like that. I liked how poetic it was. How Robot started his life in a jar as Rudy, now has ended back in a jar after taking over one planet and then coming to Earth and like trying to take that over as well and everything like that. Yeah, Mark, leader of the Viltrumites, they say they're going to just leave Earth. In the final issue, chapter 144, we get another panel exactly the same, saying, Marky, I need to tell you where we really come from. It tells him the story of the Viltrumites, tells him the story of the war, tells him how he's going to develop powers, tells him all this. And then we find out Battle Beast had a daughter, much like Battle Beast, longs for like the ultimate battle, and so yeah, Mark's going to leave with all the Viltrumites and Eve, and so he does, and then we get sort of flash forwards of Marky growing up on Earth with Debbie, Mark's mom, getting a costume from art and becoming young Invincible or Invincible Boy or something like that, and trying to be a hero. It's really nice to see. I really enjoyed it. As much as that character started out in a terrible place with what Anissa did, for him to come and have this kind of nice ending with him becoming Kid Invincible or whatever. It's really nice. And also, randomly, we get like Darkwing comes back from the, I guess, the Shadow Realm or Zone or wherever he was, after he trapped himself in there with one of the evil Invincibles. And then we get something else, which is Angstrom Levy's son. I don't know what Kirkman was doing here, because this is the last issue, and there's no spin-offs that I know about Invincible. So, like, I don't know why he wrote this on one page, that Angstrom Levy just has a son with a fox on his shoulder that is hunting down Mark Grayson. I don't know, I don't get it. So, yeah, I guess that's kind of like a cliffhanger, but I don't know. That was the one thing I was kind of like, Angstrom Levy had a son, I don't know why. I don't know. Anyway, so then we get this nice kind of, all these panels of Terra growing up, and she has an invincible costume of her own, and Mark's leading the Viltrumites, and there must have been another war between the Coalition of Planets and the Viltrumites. Mark, they're just like, the Coalition doesn't need to exist. And then you get Mark on some planet, and Eve, it looks like she's about 100, and she's dying, and she just says she's so proud of him and of Terra, her daughter, and then when she dies, she regenerates again. So I guess it's just whenever she dies, and so she just goes, wow, I guess I'm immortal. But yeah, so they go throughout the universe, like sort of helping all these random planets rather than conquering them. They're just helping them. We get little snippets of stuff. We get Mark fighting Marky, who now goes by Marcus, dressed in the Invincible costume, who's like, I worshipped you, then I grew to hate you. So we get little snippets of that in pages. I just kind of wish it was a couple more issues to really flesh that out. We get stuff like his daughter fighting in an arena, so the leader of that planet will see them as an equal. We get a really nice ending. Mark and Eve and his daughter. Eve says to him, you did everything your father asked, you changed the Viltrumites, you turned them into a force for good, celebrated across the universe. And Mark, the final page, he's like, I've been thinking a lot about something my dad said to me in the first fight, and he's like, what will you have after 500 years? And just kind of goes, huh. And that's it. That's Invincible. This video is probably going to be about an hour long, probably 2, because I rambled on for a lot, but we went through it. We went through the entire compendium. If anyone is still watching this, I doubt it, because this will have been such a long video of me rambling. I doubt anyone's still watching, but if you are, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for sticking with me through this long video. Thank you for watching this series of Invincible compendium reviews. Invincible is one of my favourite superhero comics that I've ever read, and I'm so happy to have read it and to have reviewed it for you guys. So if you liked the video, leave a like, consider subscribing so you don't miss my next review, and I'll see you all later. Bye.